Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hybrid Power Solutions Corporate Update Conference Call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Later, we will conduct a Q&A session. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will address them at the end. As a reminder, this conference call is being recorded. I would now like to introduce your host for today's conference call, Mr. Francois Byrne, Founder and Chief Executive Officer of Hybrid Power Solutions. Take it away, Francois.
So I started this company about 10 years ago, but prior to that, started or designed hybrid systems for race cars, actually. So this was at the tail end of my university career where I studied renewable energy engineering, and then ended up getting into the railway space where I got a patent in low voltage to high voltage, high frequency transformation and deployed that for a railway company or equipment company for the railway. Went out to do my MBA, traveled the world for a bit, and then started Hybrid Power Solutions. So to a certain degree, can't believe it's been 10 years that we've been doing this, which is a huge amount of time within this space. If you look at the battery space 10 years ago, it's evolved tremendously, especially the lithium battery space. So if you don't know our company or what we do, we make fuel-free and hybrid generators, essentially. So what does that mean? That means small little tiny packs that are the size of a carry-on suitcase all the way to sea container size systems that basically replace the need for a fossil fuel generator or enhance a diesel or gas or natural gas based generator and make that system a lot more efficient. And then we can augment those things with solar power, vehicle power, and other power sources. So some of our top clients includes Ellis Don, TTC's been a client of ours for almost 7 years, along with Montreal Transit, STM, and as we've built a relationship up with them, just the needs are endless for our battery system within that organization. U.S. Marine Corps, another big one, and same thing. We're just seeing pilot projects really come to fruition, and then now we're looking at multiple deployments all over the place for multiple different applications. So one thing we've been doing is the solar tarp. So if you're not familiar with this, is essentially a solar panel that rolls up, feels, and looks just like a tarp. So it's a really elegant product for those who are looking to deploy in a very small amount of time. So this is something where you could deploy a whole array in a matter of 15, 20 minutes instead of days, weeks, that kind of time frame, which typically is what it takes to set up a full concrete-based solar array or anything that's more classic. So this technology really allows you to make use of dead space in places where you want to be able to rapidly deploy and then take it away and bring it to the next site. So whether that be a construction site where you've got some sea containers, or you've got a temporary office building that you can pop up solar panels, all the way to, more importantly, the defense sector, where you could have our packs, whether the small Batpack Pros that you see in this picture here, all the way up to the Terra. You could actually be able to rapidly deploy these solar tarps, and they fit together, which is kind of cool. So they do seam together, so you can actually make this into a giant array and plug and play with all of our products. And that creates a tactical advantage out in the field where we can now have charging stations for drones. We can have power stations for drone defense and communication systems in places that we couldn't before. We can deploy these with very limited heat signatures as well. So that's a big advantage. Our IoT and fleet management software, our monitoring software, as you saw today, we had there was a little bit of more details on what we're working on that this morning, and the press release had this morning. But essentially creating this platform where we can monitor all of our devices in a single place. So that's on the back end super important, because now we can grab data, so we can do an analysis of what people are actually using, what people actually want, and predict what kind of product or help us design the future product, which is really important. Second thing, from a back end point of view, is going to be the troubleshooting portion, right? Where we can now see if a product is under warranty, if it's not under under warranty and do remote troubleshooting and repairs by providing software updates to that client over the cloud completely remotely without any kind of internet connection other than obviously cellular data communication. And that is a huge cost saving metric for us because now we don't have to ship this product back and forth. So there's a cost saving portion to that. Obviously, there's a revenue generating portion to it as well. So from a front end point of view, where the customer can now view all of their units, take for example SoCalGas, they have almost 200 of these units deployed. They can know the exact location of every single one of those units because it has GPS built into it. They can see which one is being utilized, which one isn't. So they can do asset management. And on top of that, they're going to be paying us $20 a month for that kind of service. Now, from the client's perspective, yes, another subscription. But from their perspective, they're looking at this as, hey, now I don't have to put GPS trackers in my equipment because most equipment now on large through large organizations has GPS because things get stolen. So now they don't have to have that separate cost, that additional cost, anyways. So for them, it's an easy decision to come on board with our system. And on top of that, they obviously get the full data suite. I love kind of the visual aspects on these slides. So just take a look at some of our deployments. Some of these you may not have seen, some you can find online. Drawing your eye to the one on the bottom, I think that says a lot. That's the Reaper drone. If you're not familiar with the Reaper drone, one of the most popular large-scale drones out there on the market. And that little yellow box that seems to really invade the image, that's our Batpack Energy. So it's powering all their computer systems and ground support systems for that Predator drone. And that's made us very popular within the defense space just for that one application. But obviously there's hundreds, if not thousands of other applications that we're trialing out right now. So it's interesting to see this all kind of come together where they're buying these systems and then forgetting about how they're going to power them. And they're looking for new solutions. They're looking for better solutions. They're looking for quieter solutions. So that's one big thing with us is that you can, even in a hybrid system, which is quite popular, in a hybrid system, you can choose to turn off your generator or make sure the generator isn't coming on for a certain period of time, right? You can ensure your battery's full and right before you get into, a time where you want to be quiet and then run off that battery. So it gives you a little bit more operational flexibility. Not only that, but we're talking about a massive heat reduction, right? Your exhaust can be hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit. And on a classic diesel or gasoline generator, now we're talking about, maybe a 5 or 10 degree rise in a battery system. So very, very limited heat signature. But you also have the major advantage of being able to put this in places that you typically couldn't. So you can put a battery inside of a building and throw a solar panel outside for a small frontline division, right? Or a small frontline group and not attract a whole lot of attention. Something you couldn't do before, right? So it's a tactical advantage. And then on top of that, you have the costing advantage, your capability of deploying a lot of these products, especially the smaller products, without any kind of logistics is really, really important. So, and what I mean by logistics is if I deploy a diesel generator, I have to track that asset and I have to deliver fuel on a continuous basis to that asset. And the further I get to the front, the closer I get to the front, the harder that is, both from obviously a cost perspective, but a risk to life perspective. And so the capability of deploying these assets with solar systems, but more importantly with that vehicle charging capability, means that I don't have to worry about that asset from a logistics point of view. So we can deploy and forget about it. And that group can now find power from either solar if they have deployed with solar, an existing asset, or grid access if they have grid access, or they can actually recharge it off their vehicle because vehicles are quite common and there's already a logistics component to that vehicle. So now they've got a power source handy that they can use anywhere, but utilize the logistics of the vehicle itself. Last but not least, and this is one I got some visuals for you here, is so a hybrid Spark. The reason I want to highlight this is it just completed its 1 year of results or whatever you want to call it. It's been deployed for over a year. And so this is our Spark. This is our 24 kVA system. The product they have is the 24 kVA with 30 kilowatt hour battery. So kind of our medium-sized Spark. And I wanted to show off some of the really cool results that we're getting from this site. So this picture in the Us, well, us. This is their crew setting it up. We were sent down for training. We're Canadians, so we can't touch anything, can't work, but we can point. So, anyways, this is the guys working on getting this solar array set up. As you can see here in the background, these are power racks. US made product, pretty cool. It is a plastic bucket essentially, and you fill it with aggregate up to a certain line, and then you put a solar panel on top of it. And there's no tools required other than obviously the shovel to put everything in there, and then you wire it, and it's pretty much plug and play with our Spark. So this was a very cool project. Oh, just skipping here. So after a year, these are the results. So I'm just going to breeze through this really quickly. So compared to the 45 kVA diesel generator that they have on site, because that's what they had previous to us showing up, they have saved over 13,000 gallons. If you're not familiar with gallons, what is that? Times 3.7, 3.8 liters. So a huge amount of fuel has been saved over just this last year. CO2 saved in pounds, 290,000. This is, I guess, one of the big stats we want to mention here is obviously the fuel dollars saved, huge, 44,000. And then with the maintenance costs, we're looking at over $52,000 in savings. US, this is USD, $52,000 in savings. So here kind of breaks it down on a day-to-day basis down here. So if you look at those daily averages, we went from $174 a day to under $8 a day. So a 95% reduction in fuel and maintenance costs. It's quite substantial. This is just some quick highlights over a longer term period. So 1.5 year payback period. This is a payback period on the equipment. So this doesn't take into account that if they use another solution, they would be using a generator. They'd have to buy or rent a generator. But just to pay back our equipment costs is 1.5 years. So pretty aggressive. The projected fuel and maintenance savings over 5 years is over $300,000. CO2. Yes. And in this site, they were looking at potentially doing 20 of them. So, we kind of put that number in there that they'd be saving over $6 million US if they were to deploy it across all 20 of those generators in a 5-year period. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the future. So I think, as I've been doing this for 10 years, I've never been so excited about where the company is and where we're going. It feels like everything's kind of lining up at the right time, not only from our technology perspective, which we can control to a certain degree, and innovation perspective, but also just from a markets perspective, right? And I'm not talking about public market sector. I'm talking really about our customer segments, and so everything seems to be really coming together quite well to the point where we don't have the staff to maintain the current, like to handle all those incoming leads. That's something we're addressing, but it's keep getting told it's a great problem to have. But a lot of it ends up on my plate. So anyways, we're addressing that and hiring to bring on more salespeople and handle those leads accordingly. But it's extremely promising, right? Proposals, we got over $30 million, and I think it's close to 40 million now in proposals. This is quoted proposals, so there's pricing in there, so it's not just hope and a dream here. Along with 10 plus million in kind of final stage negotiations, and a quite significant backlog. We alluded to that in previous calls. We have quite a significant backlog. The large part of those use of proceeds for the life offering was to get to eliminate that backlog, to deliver product, to create revenue, right? Which is obviously the main goal of this company. So this morning we announced our OCI program. That's $120,000, which is nothing to laugh at. But there is a lot of other programs that we're currently either in grant, into the writing grant stage, or who are just being announced from the government that we are 100% applying for. So, free money, I'll take free money every day, especially if it's going to keep us innovative, or help us grow. So this obviously, we've got the FedDev funding that's still present. That project still has over a year and a half left on that, which is fantastic. And there's the capability of re-upping that funding program. So if you're not familiar with the FedDev funding, we got that. I believe it was announced in February of last year for $2.25 million. Now that's not a grant; it is a zero interest loan that only starts after project completion. But one of the really cool parts about that program is that there is the opportunity that if you do go through that funding and you utilize all that funding, you can actually re-up for up to $10 million. So it is a one-to-one matching with private investment, but you could essentially have 10 of a $20 million round, let's say, funded by that government. So by the government. So really cool program, and we'd be utilizing it well. But things like OCI grants, fantastic. We've just been informed that the NRC IRAP program has a bunch of military funding opportunities, some small $75,000 grants, all the way up to $1 million grants. So these are things that we're actively working on. We do have a focus and an individual on our team who is actively looking into these opportunities.
Thank you for joining us. Hybrid Power Solutions is leading the charge in fuel-free, intelligent hybrid energy, delivering massive savings, zero emissions, and unmatched reliability for clients like the U.S. Marine Corps, Ellis Don, and major transit systems. We're just getting started. Stay tuned for more exciting deployments and innovations. Visit our website or follow us for the latest update. Thanks again, and here's to a cleaner, smarter energy future.